twins.
I know.
All right, we're gonna have to fix your hair now.
Match us.
Okay. All right. It is actually recording. So
It is?
go ahead.
Okay.
McNair. That's your last name. Okay. All right. Here we go. Hey, and welcome back, mamas. Today we have a great podcast guest we are very excited about. This is very relevant to, hold on. Her name is Tracie McNair, and she is a family friend. Actually, our parents both lived in the same neighborhood. Actually, we didn't know each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was much
You
older
were much older than me, so yeah. I had
Yeah.
other little neighborhood friends, as did you. So.
Yeah. So we grew up in the same neighborhood. My mom, her mom would come to my mom as a hair client. And anyways, long story short, been family friends, and now Tracie actually helps my grandma who lives with my mom. And so she is a physical therapy person that comes in, and I'm sure grandma's really excited every time you come. She does love you, but I know sometimes she doesn't want to get out of her chair.
Yeah. I make her work though, so.
Yeah. And you're keeping her healthy, so I know my mom's so appreciative of you for that too. So to kick this off, do you want to just give a brief introduction and to share why we brought her here? She has another powerful testimony of something looking like there's no way out, a devastation involving a child, and somehow God, only God, she has a but God story that she's going to share. So really powerful, so we think you should stay tuned and listen in. So if you wouldn't mind starting with a brief introduction.
Yeah, so like Nikki said, I'm Tracie. I'm going to share my story about my daughter, Chloe, who just turned 2 about a little over a month ago. So a little backstory, I met my husband in college. We were both soccer players on our college soccer team.
Nice.
So with sharing the same coaching staff, both teams were pretty much one team, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
So we instantly became best friends. We were kind of the old story, best friends turned girlfriend, boyfriend, and then the rest is history.
How did it get to that point then? It's like the chicken or the egg, or who's going to say it first?
I'll be honest, my husband showed more of an interest in me, wanting to be more than just friends. We were both kind of not quite dating, but kind of talking to other people, and then I just kind of finally got my wits to me and was like, no, like he had supported me through a lot that I had just gone through in college and everything. He was always by my side. My family loved him, so I was like, I think he's the one. So,
that's awesome.
And we're very happy. We're about to celebrate our 7-year anniversary.
Wow.
So.
I was gonna say those make the best marriages, because that's like how me and my husband were best friends, and it just creates that foundation of not just based on, you know, the in love or like those feelings, you know, you have that. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
So we got married in June of 2017, and then in September of 2021 we found out we were pregnant. And then the pregnancy really was, I mean, as easy as it could be. I really, luckily, never had any morning sickness or anything. It was really the easiest pregnancy up until where our story begins. When I was about 34 weeks pregnant, I was 34 weeks and a day, went into just what we thought was just a normal routine visit with my OB. They did what was supposed to be the final ultrasound just to make sure everything was still looking good with the baby. We had found out she was a girl. We had found that out in December. And then unfortunately my OB came into our room and said, "We've found some abnormalities with the child. She appears to be extremely large. Her kidneys are off the charts large, greater than the 99th percentile. There are cysts all over the kidneys. So we're going to refer you to some high-risk OBs in the fetal medicine, maternal and fetal medicine group at Mercy." So the very next day.
Can you pause there? So
Yeah.
was your husband able to be with you then?
He was. Luckily, yeah, my husband's very supportive. He was at every single one of my prenatal visits. yeah, so he was in the room with me.
Did you have an inkling that something was amiss when the tech was doing the ultrasound?
No, not at all. I mean, she, I don't know if you want to say had a poker face, but like, no, she did not give us any indication. We found out later that I guess legally with everything, they're not allowed to really like say anything like that. It has to be the doctor. So yeah, she must have shown everything to our doctor.
So just a complete shock.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
she
we just assumed, I mean, because you can see it up on the screen, and we didn't know we were looking. I mean, I am in the medical field, as Nikki said, I'm a physical therapist, but like I don't read that type of stuff. So like I had no idea, and my husband's an accountant, so that's definitely out of his world.
What was your initial thoughts, expressions? What did you say?
So shock, because I mean, up until that point, every ultrasound, every testing had been completely normal. I mean, we knew she had been a little bit on the big side, but my husband was a larger baby, so I mean, we didn't really think anything of it. On my side, my brother was a really large baby, so I mean, we didn't think much of it. But
how long had it been since your last ultrasound?
that's a good question. I think it hadn't been until the 20-week anatomy scan.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
So I don't think they had another one until then. So yeah, so when did the cysts and everything really start appearing? We're not really sure. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we hadn't had one. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a really good question. I think I want to say it wasn't until it hadn't been since the 20-week anatomy scan. So it had been quite a while. So
I just remember I always ask those questions because I was by myself in ER room with Sadie, and it was just like no tears. It was just like a big wind just blew you in the face, and you just sat there. And honestly, I don't know if you were in the shock too of like you couldn't even like think the next couple of days. It's like all the hazy mist.
Yeah, that's exactly how we were. It was just like the air was just sucked out of us. Like we had no idea what to think.
Joy.
Like I mean, we were so excited, and then we're like, oh my gosh, like what does this even mean? So yeah, we go to see the very next day because I was already 34 weeks, and so they had been talking about doing an induction anyway because of how large she was. They wanted to avoid a C-section if at all possible, which that part didn't really scare us too much. But then they were saying that she was reading a few weeks larger than what her gestational age should be. They were saying she was a little over 36 weeks was how big she was compared to being 34 weeks in a day. Which they said was an indication of some abnormality. And then you put in the kidneys themselves, which were huge, and then the cysts all over. Then they started throwing around a whole bunch of other diagnoses. So we go and see the OB, the high-risk OB, the very next day at Mercy. She was wonderful. They did amniocentesis. They did more ultrasounds. They checked the heart rate and everything. Then we had to meet with a genetic counselor because they were talking to us about, well, we're going to have to do a whole bunch of genetic screening to figure out what could or couldn't be causing this. So a few of the diagnoses they were more leaning towards was something called Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, which is when the baby is very large. Some of the organs, it may or may not be the kidneys, it could be some of the other organs, can be very large. A classic sign is a protruded large tongue, which actually in some of the ultrasounds you could see her tongue sticking out. Do not know if that was it or not, but they were like, well, you can see the tongue right there, that could be it. And then the other thing that they were leaning towards was something called polycystic kidney disease, hence all the cysts on her kidneys. So then that's a big thing where the genetic testing would come in, because there's two forms of polycystic kidney disease. There's autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant. Autosomal recessive, one of the parents has to carry the genes. There may or may not be any other family member who ever had a kidney problem. So that was a question we were frequently getting asked by everybody. Anybody in your family ever had any kidney disease? No, there is no history on either of our sides of the family. Nobody's ever had dialysis, nothing like that. Polycystic or autosomal dominant, both of us would have had to have the gene. So they had to do a whole bunch of genetic screening for the Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. The Mayo Clinic is the only lab in the entire country who tests for that. So luckily,
and usually those take months.
Yes. So they told us it would take 6 to 8 weeks. Well, I was already 34 weeks, so we're like, well, the baby's going to be here before we even get the results. So they did make it urgent. I think it was about 4 weeks later, I ended up being induced when I was 39 weeks. I think it was like the week or week and a half prior is when we actually got those results back. So they did speed them up, but they had to be sent to the Mayo Clinic. Luckily, we didn't have to go to the Mayo Clinic or anything. They did all the testing there at Mercy and sent them out to the Mayo Clinic. We got all our genetic testing back. My husband and I were both negative for everything. There was one minor thing totally unrelated that my husband was a carrier for, but they said the baby could only have whatever that was. I don't even know what it was if I was also a carrier, which I was not. So everything they were saying seemed to be ruled out. Okay, so tell us then, why is our baby having this? I mean, we don't know. They sent us to see a pediatric urologist, Dr. Palagiri. He's at Mercy. He's wonderful. He was telling us most likely our baby would have to be on dialysis. He was also going to have, he also then referred us to a physician who he used to work with, who was over at Cardinal Glennon, who's a pediatric nephrologist, kidney doctor. So we went and met with him. He agreed with Dr. Palagiri, most likely that regardless of whatever the diagnosis ended up being, most likely the baby would have to be on dialysis. Also, another possibility would be that the baby would be on dialysis till they were old enough to get a kidney transplant. And then that's only if the baby lived past 2 weeks.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Is
that the hardest thing to hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they said that a lot of the babies that have these type of kidney problem do not live past 2 weeks. So
wow.
That night after meeting with the pediatric nephrologist, I mean, I cried my eyes out. I did not sleep. Hardly slept at all for the remainder of that pregnancy because, I mean, I'm carrying this child.
You're
that
selfless.
I mean, we've grown to love. Yes, we've never physically met her before, but she's our daughter. I mean,
and your first child.
Yeah, first
and
child.
then to have to go through having weeks with her to get to know her, and then knowing like this isn't gonna last. That has to be, I don't know, a form of, not that any way is less hard or harder, but just I can imagine the torture.
Yeah. I called my mom as we were on our way home from the hospital, and we had already chosen Chloe's name, and we had told our family. We didn't announce it to everyone else, but I was like, Chloe's probably not going to live. Like, I mean, she's just not. So we told our family. I have one brother and his wife, and then my husband has a sister, and then we told my husband's parents, and then from there, and they all asked, then can we share this news with other people? So from there, family, friends, everyone, it seemed like, started praying for our daughter. We had prayer change literally, I would venture to say, probably every state in the United States. My husband and I each have family in other countries, Greece, Germany, a few other ones. So like literally across the globe, we had people praying for her.
That's so incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it was wonderful. Just, I mean, just people reaching out to us, some people that we hadn't heard from in months, years, just saying, hey, so-and-so told me about your story. Just want to let you know we're praying for you. So the few weeks of misery, I'll say, go by. Lots of praying, lots of tears. Fast forward to April 26, 2022. I get induced. We go to the hospital.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Did you and your husband have any hard discussions in that 2 weeks? I mean,
Yes, sir.
and how did you guys cope? Similar or different with the news?
My husband is not as emotional as I am.
That's what I was just about to ask.
Yeah. He will cry I've seen him cry maybe a handful of times in our relationship, but not a whole lot. So he's more someone who he'll share things with me, but he keeps them a little bit more to himself. I am a very wear my heart on my sleeve type of person. I cry all the time.
Cry when you're mad. Cry when,
That's just me. And then you add the pregnancy hormones in there, and
I can imagine.
Yeah. My husband and I loved each other before, but I think going through that really brought us even closer together. And I think it really brought our families we brought us closer to our families and everything. But so we grieve differently, but I think the important thing is we're grieving and doing that together, which I think is the important thing.
And he was likely trying to be strong for you. That's the lesson I learned the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. So we go into the hospital. I end up getting induced as planned. The delivery, everything was pretty easy, not too bad. They had told us, regardless of whatever happens, that she would be taken to the NICU right away. So we got to hold her for a little bit, do all the skin to skin and everything, but then she was immediately taken there. I wasn't able to move for a little bit, so my husband left, and then some of our family stayed with me in the room, and then my husband and his mom, I believe. Unfortunately, this is towards the end of COVID when things were still somewhat shut down. So being in the NICU, they had extra tight rules. So we were only allowed a certain number of people that were during the duration of her NICU stay. Only a certain number of people were allowed to be there. It was 4 people plus my husband and I. So unfortunately, neither of our dads ever got to meet our daughter until she was being discharged home, because we had to choose who.
Yeah. How much did she weigh?
So, I'm glad you asked that.
Question.
Very good question. They told us she was going to probably weigh about 12 pounds or so.
Oh, wow.
She weighed 7.5 pounds.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was...
Wow.
Did that give you a little relief?
It did, yeah. Confusion, relief, everything. We're like, okay, so...
How many weeks were you? Sorry if you are...
39.
39.
Yeah, so I was only 1 week early.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, well, I guess we really didn't need this induction, but nobody knew. So many, like I said, we had seen my OB, her partner, 2 different high-risk OBs, the pediatric urologist, pediatric nephrologist, and then in addition, my brother is a physician as well. We had sent the ultrasounds to him. They all were reading the ultrasounds and everything the exact same. So you can't blame anybody for reading them wrong, because everybody agreed. So yes, that was thing number 1, is she was 7.5 pounds, not 12 pounds or whatever.
Did she look healthy?
She did.
It just seemed like a normal baby?
Wow. Seemed completely fine. So they take her down. They told us that they would be doing an ultrasound on her kidneys. They'd be doing some blood work, checking her what's called her creatinine level, which is the main thing in the kidneys that that checks your blood, filters your blood, which is the main function of the kidneys. So they'd be checking her creatinine levels through urine analysis, blood testing, and then the ultrasounds. So we go do that. A pediatric, either nephrologist or urologist, not the one that we had met, but one who works there at the in the NICU at Mercy. Ended up seeing her sometime when we were up in my room, because unfortunately we were in separate rooms. We didn't know when that doctor was going to be stopping by, and we only had a certain number of like times or whatever. Sometime I had to be up in my room, sometime we could go see her. So unfortunately we didn't get to meet with him, but we got a report from him that from what he could tell, there was nothing wrong.
Wow.
And
that was day 1?
She was born around a little after 10 p.m. at night, so it was like the next morning.
Wow.
So it was like...
Had they done ultrasounds on her or tests?
They did all of that right away.
Okay.
And then I believe he then read the results and went and looked at her like when he got in the very next morning.
It's like a miracle.
Yeah, it was.
So how was your emotions? Because it's part of you like wanting to be joyful, but then part of you is like, I don't want to get too much hope, and then be like, oh wait.
Right.
So was it a mix
That's exactly what it was. It was, oh my gosh, like it truly is a miracle. Like all these prayers really do something. All these prayer chains that were going on across the country, across the world, like maybe prayer is powerful to make.
Sometimes it takes something like this to, you don't hear about it that much, honestly, sadly. But it's there.
Yeah.
And you can't deny it if the scans are coming in, and so.
Yeah, and all the renowned specialists are agreeing with it.
Yeah. So there were still what they called some echogenicity, which is when there's certain parts of the kidneys or any organ, this is just an ultrasound term, that just appear a little brighter for one reason or another. And there was still, they were seeing a little bit of echogenicity in her kidneys, but they weren't seeing the cysts. The kidneys were...
That girl just got healed by Jesus.
I know. They were a little bit on the bigger side, but not greater than 99th percentile like they were saying before. Her NICU stay ended up only being a few days versus we were expecting it to be weeks, months, whatever it was gonna be. So
what was it like when you got to reunite with her? Did they have to keep her monitoring her? Like when did you physically get to like have her?
So we got to go down and see her pretty much right away that night. She was born around like 10 o'clock or so, so like we didn't sleep much during that night. So it was probably around midnight or so whenever they cleared me to be able to go down there, that I had my rest or whatever. My husband went down there immediately. And so we went down there right away. They allowed us to start some breastfeeding right away, which was awesome. So in like just holding her.
Do you remember a specific moment that it hit you? Did you have one of those?
I mean, like after finding out that things were okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we found out the next morning when we got the report from the doctor. And so yeah, going that next morning, just holding her, we were like, maybe things are going to be okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they told us that we would still have to go see the same pediatric urologist and pediatric nephrologist that we had seen before. So in addition to her normal pediatrician appointments, we spent a lot of time at Mercy and at Cardinal Glennon meeting with those doctors. But thank God, they told us that until something really seems abnormal, they weren't going to do anything. Wow. So she was discharged from her urologist when she was about 1.5 years. So she was seeing him. Initially it was every few months, then it got to be every 6 months. And then when she was about 18 months, he said, I don't need to see her anymore. She seems fine. Continue with the nephrologist. So we still see him. We saw him the middle of April, right before she turned 2. He said from what he can see, she still seems fine. They still do ultrasounds and blood work and urine analysis every time she goes in. And He said from what he can see, she's fine. He said he doesn't need to see her until she's, I think he said 4. So we're going to go 2 years now.
Amazing.
He said...
Have any of the doctors commented, or are they shocked? Did you get any feedback from them?
Yeah, so talking to... I still, obviously, just for normal appointments and whatever, go see my OB. And so I've talked to her a few different times just about it all. And obviously, and she's wonderful. I love her. And she's just, everyone's always like, I think the phrase we've heard so many times is sorry for putting you through undue stress. And we're just like, it is not your fault at all. You were doing your job.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was in agreement. So there's absolutely no blame.
And it appears like a miracle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It would be hard for all of them to agree and miss all of that. And then also, if you didn't have that, then you wouldn't have had the prayers.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So it just all worked for good.
Yeah. I don't want to say this has all been a blessing, but like my relationship with God had been kind of not very strong. I grew up going to Catholic school my whole life. I've always had a pretty good relationship with God, but like, I think it was more in my college years, I kind of started drifting apart. And then I think this really brought me closer. It brought my husband closer to God. He's now decided that he wanted to become Catholic, so he just became Catholic over this past Easter. So I think our whole family now is a lot closer to God. So, I mean, that's one blessing that you can take out of it. I don't care what religion you are or anything, but I think it's important for everybody to have a relationship with God, and mine had been falling astray, and so
many have.
Yeah, and this did bring me closer to God, and I wish it didn't take something like this to do that, but it did, and we are so blessed and so fortunate to have a healthy little girl. Like I said, she just turned 2 about a month ago. Yeah.
Is it amazing to say that?
Oh my gosh.
Know. Do you ever have moments? I still have moments where I'm like, in the middle of the night, it always is, I'm like, she had cancer.
Yeah.
Like, so do you still ever have moments of like, oh crap, like this actually happened?
Yeah.
Look at her, and like, I don't know, it just...
Yeah.
And do you feel like this has changed you as a person, just even aside from faith? Do you feel like in any ways this has changed you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes me think I don't care what anybody's going through, like, do not give up. Whether you're going for a job, whether you're trying to try out for a team, whether you're going to try out a new instrument, whatever it is that you set your mind to, or you're struggling with, maybe you're struggling with an addiction or something. Do not give up. Lean on other people. The support of other people, the prayers of other people, they do go a long way. And so I think this whole experience has opened my eyes to all of that, the power of prayer, the power of positive thinking,
Yeah, don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope, for real. Like,
has it made you more grateful for maybe, those hard times as a first-time mom, like, maybe getting up through the night, or where you're dragging asleep, or, has it made you stop and just be like, I'm so
I could
glad.
not be doing this right now.
Yeah. I mean, a couple years ago, we were thinking she wouldn't have lived past a couple weeks, or else if she did live, then we would be dealing with at-home dialysis. They were going to teach us how to use an at-home dialysis machine every single night before she goes to bed. Or we'd be meeting with the kidney transplant committee. Yeah. So rather than just doing the normal...
changing that third blowout in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, let me stop.
That's right.
Thankful for this blowout.
Or every single wet diaper. I mean, I know they always say with newborns to check their wet diapers, make sure they're having enough urine output, but with her kidneys, that was one thing they were really concerned about. Is she going to be able?
For pee.
Yeah, you're like,
a wet diaper.
I don't care.
One of my friends, she was actually on the podcast. She had lost her husband and baby, traumatic to a drunk driver, but she had made a post after it happened. It makes me cry every time I say it. And she said, I didn't know what a bad day was. And that just like wrecked me. And then from there on out, like, we've known people throughout the years that have lost children. Anytime I'm just in a moment of, where I'm frustrated and I'm like, oh, I need a break. And I'm like, you know what? Some mom's crying, wishing they could be yelling at their kid.
Take all the mess.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
I know somebody.
Because I just didn't have any symptoms and signs. And anyway, I hadn't gained weight. Had gained like 3 pounds. But I had, found out the night that I was pregnant, and that was also a boy, and I was like, holy cow. So I got set up for my first doctor visit, and the nurse comes in and she says, you're so far along and they haven't done any testing on this baby. He could come out with all kinds of issues. You're so young, you really just need to abort him. And
wow.
she
I
was
never told you
so,
that.
I know,
Oh, my
I
goodness.
just realized I've never shared this. And so she was so forceful, and thankfully,
Were you alone too?
no, I wasn't. But
Sounds
yeah,
like manipulative.
it was.
Anyway.
It was so I literally got up and left and was like, I will be getting a different doctor.
Yeah,
Thank
I
God
would
you were
too.
in your right mind at such a young
I
age.
know,
my
that's what I was
goodness,
going to say. I'm like, how many young girls are there out there
Yeah.
that,
Right.
could have been like, oh, wow, you're right. And she's sitting there saying, well, what if your baby has this and you have to go through it? And I'm like, well, then I'll handle it then.
Yep.
And he's a perfectly healthy baby,
Yeah.
nothing wrong, nothing
Right.
showed up on the scan. She didn't even do the scan before she
that?
was pushing this, and
Oh
I
my
just had to get
goodness.
up and
The
leave.
devil working through
Yeah.
people.
Right?
Like,
Like,
that's
that's
just
horrible.
evil.
How bold.
Instead of loving on you and
Yeah.
maybe mentoring you or
Yeah.
I don't know, hey, you're gonna be fine. I don't know.
I'm
That's-
sure as a teen mom, you had enough emotions
Yeah.
already going
Right.
through your mind. You don't need somebody else filling these
Yeah.
ideas.
And then
And that's when you just found out too.
Yeah, and
so
so-
within
Oh my
a
gosh.
24-hour period or even
no, it had been so I found out the emergency room, and then it had been I think the next week or something.
why
or a
did
few
you go to
days,
the emergency room?
for stomach pains, and I thought I had a tumor.
Oh my gosh.
You can laugh about it now, right?
Yeah, oh Mom, I don't have a
So
tumor.
not only do you maybe have a tumor, but you should probably abort your baby too.
Well, yeah, right.
like,
We
what
got
a
that
thing to
tumor,
say.
but yeah, I know.
That was later, but
Yeah.
and I just am so thankful that I had.
And that's not
always-
medical advice.
No,
Come on.
not.
Yeah.
I
If you
don't-
believe in that stuff, fine.
Yeah.
It's your will, whatever.
But
That's not medical
as
advice.
a medical professional
Yeah.
myself, that's something that you don't put your beliefs. I don't care whether it's politics, religion,
Right.
any of your beliefs. You don't try to force that on anybody else.
I should have
Yeah.
reported her, but I just didn't even think of that at the time. But yeah, I'm just so thankful that I knew where I stood with that at a young age. It had to be God and the Holy Spirit because,
Right.
and that I was just, normally I'm not very confrontational. Normally I'm very now I'm better at standing up, but back then I was definitely someone that would just sit and be quiet and not want to disturb the peace, but I guess the Holy Spirit just gave me that boldness that I just walked out. But
Yeah.
how many other people go through that?
Yeah, I was trying to find the message too. So this is another story. So this is why we're giving this testimony. Perhaps God wants us to share your story, and I know it's been on your heart for a while. We've been trying to pin this down for a while. It is an often occurrence. I know 3 to 4 people personally. So how often does this actually happen where they're told the worst and it doesn't end up that way? For example, I can't find the, oh, yep, hold on. Okay, so one of our friends, Katie,
Yeah.
she has a sister that was told her child in the womb still has, I think it's a rare form of brain cancer or something, so they found clear evidence of cancer. And so, talking about as soon as, the baby comes out, chemo, all of what they're going to have to do to treat this baby. And anyways, long story short, she received a message from her sister. And I don't think she cares saying, I can cut this out if we need to, but she said, if you're in need of, from her sister this morning, maybe last week, if you're in need of uplifting news, we just left Cardinal Glennon and baby Jack will not need surgery, chemo, or radiation. It was confirmed that the tumor is not cancerous and it's a piece of lung tissue.
Oh my gosh.
They won't operate right away and they may never operate.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brain cancer?
Yeah.
Wait, so he has a piece of lung tissue on his brain? How does that happen?
I don't, unless
there could be just with any sort
Could the
of
baby just be wrapped up
and
and
a
you
little
can
bit, And things can break
okay.
away just,
Okay.
and it just can be floating.
Wow.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know exactly the
Right.
specifics, but things like that do happen,
okay.
and you just.
But it's been a powerful thing in their family and their faith. And she's like, Katie, thank you so much for your faith and your prayers. And again, it's the same thing that happened to you, bringing people together. But also, don't discount, even if they say you're supposed to lose her right eye for sure, pretty much. You know, even if they say, still pray for it. And if we're supposed to have faith, that means like go above and beyond. And that's why I still pray for Sadie's complete miracle and her gene mutation to be miraculously healed. Because why would we not? Why would we not?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, what else? Do you have any post-traumatic things or triggers when you go to a certain hospital or doctor visit, or the room where you walk past, they told you the news? Do you have any of that still to this day?
I think the place I dread going to the most is Cardinal Glennon and the nephrologist. He's a great doctor, but he's the one that really told us about her not living probably past 2 weeks, having to be on dialysis until she's old enough to get a kidney transplant, and then having to be on dialysis the rest of our life, and that would be best case scenario. So I have just a spot in my heart that I'm just it makes me like.
Do you come home from those appointments? I can be open and say that I feel like I managed Sadie's situation very well, and I attribute it all to God and the support of good, godly people around us. But I left Sadie's visit, which was a pretty routine visit, a week and a half ago, and it was probably a week or so that I just was like cranky. It brings out these things, I know, and so I'm just curious. We all have those little triggers, and it seems like the further you get out, the easier, right? Because it's been 2 years now, right? But no, it's not.
No.
It's there.
Nope. I mean, like I said, we just went and saw him again a little over a month ago, middle of April, and walking in to that building, unfortunately, my husband is crunched with work right now, so he usually has been at every visit, but that was the first one through everything that he wasn't able to be at. And so Chloe and I are walking in, and I'm just like, can we just get this visit over with? Like, I want to get out of here.
I know. Where's the door?
Yes.
I can imagine.
If another woman is listening, or if somebody else is listening that knows somebody going through this, say they're still pregnant right now, do you have any advice, anything that got you through those few weeks of not knowing, or any advice to help that woman out there?
I would say the support of family and friends and the power of prayer. I can't stress enough like how much those things, family, friends, and God, got us through. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for prayers and the support and outreaching of family and friends, I mean, my husband and I, we wouldn't have gotten through it. Like, there would be no us, probably, not that we were ever suicidal, but we would not be the same people, I would say, that we are. And who knows whether we would have a daughter at this time. And we still don't know, and we probably never will know what that was. I mean, there's still, based on her last ultrasound a month ago, a tiny bit of echogenicity. What is causing that? We have no idea.
Maybe it's just a little trace of God saying,
Yeah.
there was something.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
completely
Seriously.
nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe it's just a little glimpse.
I healed it.
of-
Yeah. Right.
Yep, just a
A
little reminder.
Yeah.
God shining through, literally
Yeah,
shining.
right.
That's what
Literally,
echogenicity shining
Jesus
through.
is light. So.
Yeah. So
It's all about the perfect text at the perfect time. I don't know. That's exactly. I would be like wrestling, and I would be like so strong in faith most of the time, but there would be those moments where I was so weak. And you're right, it was the perfect call or the text. Tiffany one day called me from our old baseball team, and I just started like letting loose sobbing. I was just like, "How did you know?" And I'm sorry I had to let this out on you, but you're so right. So, and that's why if women out there don't have a network, that's our goal in the Aligned Mamas community. That really is the reason why we started it, because there's a lot of women, unfortunately, that do not have the network you have. And some of it, I feel like, is you reap what you sow, but also some people come from families, they're not trained to develop relationships or be skilled in being social and all of that. So for all of you out there that are in the Lincoln County, St. Charles County area, we are trying to build a support network for you, those going through hard times. And it could be hard just dealing with the laundry in your house, let's just be honest. We try to talk about that all the time because there's people that probably said it to you. People said it to me often, like they would talk about their kid's earache or their laundry and they'd like catch their breath and they'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Nikki. Like, I feel so bad mentioning that. And I'm like, no, it's all in perspective, right? And I can say, and I believe you would say too, I am thankful of how God refined me through it. I would never have allowed it, but I am such a better I'm so much better off for it, for going through that, my eyes being open, to suffering and all of that, and the beauty too, and God. Okay, so it's just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts or any other tidbits?
I just want to say this Aligned Mamas community, if you're not a part of it, please join. They have a Facebook group. They have this podcast.
Thank you.
Like they've got a chat, keeping people accountable. I mean, whatever it is you're going through, they'll be there to support you. It doesn't matter if it's children, if it's your faith, if it's trying to lose weight, if it's just trying to be healthier. It doesn't matter what it is. I've seen so many different women post about all different things. So please join this, because it's gotten me through a lot. And
so sweet.
I mean, these two ladies right here are awesome. So
I appreciate that.
Yes. And I also just want to say it's for women. You don't have to be a mama, because I know a lot of times people get hung up like, I want to join, but I'm not a mom. That's okay. You just got to be a woman.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I have one really important last question. What are you having for dinner tonight?
She does this on every podcast.
It's our closing.
So we
We're trying to give ideas to women out there. We thought it was cute when we started the podcast. She's like, I have an idea. And it's like, well, maybe it'll inspire women to have different ideas. But I'd never come to the table too hot.
Yeah, she looked at me like I was a little crazy. She's like,
sorry, I wasn't prepared for that question.
I always joke with that.
Well, we're going to play pickleball with a couple friends, so we'll probably do dinner before or afterwards. So we're probably going to go out, I would assume, but
you guys are still active and have it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm a college soccer referee, so that's how I stick with soccer. I don't do a whole lot of playing nowadays. My husband plays indoor soccer, and then we like golfing and playing pickleball. We're not a big pickleball people, but this will just be something for fun that we're doing. So
little bonding. That's nice. Somebody watches Chloe. Is it your mom?
Yeah. So my parents will come over and watch her. Good. Yeah, they like to watch her at our house. Good for you.
That would be as older married couples. Yeah, just keep doing the date nights anytime you can get away. Like there's nothing wrong in that. It's actually what you should be doing. So that's awesome. Seems like you got it nailed down.
Nikki, what are you having?
So husband and oldest are out of town for baseball. We're going to try to have a chill weekend, which means not much in preparing anything. I have no idea. So, we have tons of leftovers. We have leftover mac and cheese and tons of Mexican meat. What do I call it? Taco meat. So we're going to have probably leftovers tonight. We're going to try to have a lazy weekend. Been looking forward to this weekend. My middle child was going to try to go to the tournament. And I was like, no, you get mommy, and mommy gets you all weekend. So we have 2 out of the 3 kids here staying back. So that's what we're going to do. Leftovers.
Fun. My mom actually just called me on the way here and was like, I want the kids to come spend the night. And I'm like, sold. Just kidding. So me and my husband, I think, are gonna run. We have a lake house, and so we're gonna go to the lake tonight, just us, and we'll probably eat out. Rustico Cabin. If anyone's in Mark Twain area, such good food. Yeah, really good. Like home cooking, really good. So probably go there, and they have like homemade fudge and ice cream. So probably gonna get some ice cream too.
Yeah.
You're making me hungry. It's almost lunchtime.
My Ty that I'll have this weekend loves ice cream, so we'll have to do some desserts. They both love coffee. We'll wake up, we'll have our coffee. So, Well, thank you so very much. I know this podcast is going to touch the audience that's meant to, and a lot of women out there. And if you have a friend or family member going through something like this, be sure to share the podcast, or is it okay if there is a woman out there that would reach out to you on Facebook?
Absolutely. Yes.
Tracie McNair, can you spell that for them?
It's Tracie. I have an abnormal first name spelling, but I love it. Tracie, and then McNair, McNair.
Perfect. Awesome. So reach out to her if you'd like to connect, if you need. Sometimes it takes somebody that understands to go through something like that. So, but at the end, don't lose hope. Don't be that person, oh ye of little faith, that Jesus rebuked. So anyways, with that,
See you next time, mamas.
Yay.
Awesome.
That was so good.
I know,
That's
was
very
so good. I love that.
inspirational.
I know. I was sitting there waiting for the like, but then and then I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
This is a
I know,
very
so
happy
good.
happy ending.
Okay. Oh,
I know,
amazing.
which is such a relief too.
Yeah.
Yeah.